Hey everybody, it's Brandon, and in this video I want to talk to you guys about what I have come to realize about using an error log. So if you are studying for the GMAT, you have probably come across this concept of an error log, and you may have even used this in studying in the past. Some people use flashcards, some people simply write down topics that they've identified as having problems with. But for the GMAT, you're going to take I would say probably a more comprehensive approach, because the GMAT covers a lot of different subject material, and you're going to identify a lot of different things that you're not necessarily good at, or possibly you just have a higher error rate in. So if you Google error log, you're going to find a lot of different files, probably from GMAT Club. And the way you apply these tools are, they're really going to impact your outcomes, because the error log is a very big part of your studying. Why is this? Well, the error log provides a few different things. So it provides a place for you to collect and review difficult material for you. So in terms of your studying, you're going to want to narrow in your focus on study areas that are going to yield the most benefit for you, and those areas that are going to yield the most benefit for you are going to be the areas that you mess up repeatedly, and you're going to be able to capture these by tracking them in the error log. Another thing that your error log is going to do is going to provide to you some level of analytics. Now, depending on how you run your error log, you're going to get varying amounts of this. So if you were to simply write these down, maybe just jot notes to a sheet of paper, you're not going to really have much analytics. You're just going to be able to scan your notes and get a general idea of the topics you have. But if you enter it into something like Excel, if you download some really comprehensive sheet, you're going to get a lot of different things. You're going to be going to get things like total quantity of certain problem types that you're missing. You're going to be able to get perhaps time, the average time you spend on right versus wrong answers. You're going to get perhaps performance over time, if you're trending down, trending up. There's a lot of different things you can get from your error log. Now, with my experience of using error logs just over the last few months, there's a balance to strike, okay? Because there's definitely a noticeable cost in entering in your all your problems that you perform, all your practice sets into these error logs. It's kind of a timely process. It takes away time that you could just spend studying. It takes away a lot of energy, and it's honestly just kind of tiring sometimes. So in terms of actually using an error log, you have to think about practicality. You have to think about actual usability. This kind of comes back to, I think is a really big thing with a lot of businesses and a lot of corporations, and I think about this just because I'm getting into data analytics now. You need to have KPIs that actually matter. You need to have data that actually matters. It doesn't really matter if you track, all those things that I said. You can have, your performance over time. You can have average, time per question. You need data that actually helps you. If you're not actually using the data for something, then there's no point in capturing it. So we need to have an error log that's simple enough to, actually be able to use it on a day-to-day basis, and also, sophisticated enough to provide the right amount of analytics and insight to increase our performance. So what I would recommend for you to do, this is simply from my own experience, this is what I'm currently doing. You should download an error log. So download a spreadsheet. If you just Google error log GMAT Club on Google, you're going to find a lot of different error logs. Just download any one, honestly. You can just find some error log that has a lot of traction on those forums. And I would definitely recommend cutting out some columns that you don't think you're going to need. I would definitely go column by column. I'll just tell you the ones that I currently have right now. So I do have date. This is simply to have some kind of performance over time. I can kind of see if I can, at a later date, I can graph my correct answers over time to see if I'm increasing performance or decreasing. Whether you choose to enter in all the right answers or wrong answers, that's really up to you. I do think answering or putting in all of the right answers that you get is a bit of a tedious process, and while that does give you some level of accuracy, you'll be able to determine your accuracy in your practice sets by filtering things on correct versus non-correct. That's another column you should have in your error log. It really adds to the overhead of the whole process. So I've stopped entering in answers that I got correct into my error log. I mean, it is called an error log, not a question log, but some people do both. Question type, you should have question type. You should have things like problem solving, data sufficiency, critical reasoning, reading comprehension, all those. I have mine split into a verbal sheet and a quantitative sheet. I like to have answer selection method choice, so that really just breaks down whether it was a process of elimination, it was a total guess, or if I knew it cold. What this is going to allow you to do is you can filter your questions into, did I know this? Was this a process of elimination? Was this a guess? And based on your error rates, you'll be able to determine how you should approach your studies. So if you're doing a lot of geometry questions and you are constantly missing these process of elimination questions, and you're going to have to address that in your studies. There's certain inferences you're making when you are trying to guess that are they're leading you down the wrong path, or perhaps they're all guesses, in which case you really need to just review all the material. And if you're saying that you know the answer but you're still getting it wrong, then that means there are concepts that you're just not understanding correctly, and you're making very, very large mistakes. So that's a really important thing to be tracking. I like to track area, and in another video I was saying, in like the OG guides, a lot of these problem guides, they do have each question has some kind of a category. Like, for example, there's algebra, arithmetic, geometry, statistics, and sets. I like to just use those categories that the OG or Manhattan, whatever problem set you're using. That's actually why I recommend using those official problem sets, because they have everything cleanly categorized for you already. You don't need to code these yourselves. If you start making your own categories, it can be kind of difficult with keeping that data actually organized. So I would just stick to whatever problems that you're using, whatever areas they have. Takeaways. So this is simply writing out what you learned from each problem, and this is really the most important thing. Just the act of writing it down is going to help you learn, but you should be reviewing this at some kind of cadence so you can kind of lock these in. So in addition to using an error log to track all of my questions, I literally just put sticky notes on my wall just to further reinforce and have the immediacy of being able to see all this. My error log is in my computer. I don't always just open it up randomly, whereas when I sit down, I can literally just look at all of the very quick things to remember, all these quick errors that I've made, these quick one-off concepts I need to learn, just to help drill it into my memory. Last column that I would recommend including, why wrong. So this is something like, concept, was it just tough, or were you careless? And again, this kind of goes back to the answer choice collection. So whether you just really don't understand a concept and you need to review the material. Careless, if you're making a lot of careless mistakes, it really means you need to focus on accuracy, and approach problems in a very particular way, whether that is mandate that you spend a certain amount of time no matter what, even if you are sure of an answer. Maybe it's you double check it twice, you create that habit. Maybe you don't choose an answer choice unless you fully write out all the work. There are different tools you can do, but you can't know if you're supposed to do that if you don't have the error log with all of the careless column entries indicating that that's the right course of action. So that is what I would recommend for your error log. I know I kind of just broke. I told you all the columns that I use. I pretty much just spoke about all the columns that are pretty much in the error log. But like I said, simply download it. Download a template off the internet. Kind of cross-reference it with the things that I just talked to you about, and just be consistent. Stick with it, and hopefully your performance will improve. Anyways, I have to get back to studying. Got another 30 minutes before I got to go to work. So good luck in your studies. I will talk to you soon. Bye.